Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of SpecTalk. Today we are talking. We're gonna represent Canada today. So the first question I have for everybody that's on today is I would like to know what part of the world you are chiming in from. Are you in Canada? Are you um, tuning in from the States today? Please, by all means, let me know in the comments. Let's get the comments fired up a little bit because today should be a really fun episode today. So I just want to welcome everybody because this episode is near and dear to my heart. With you, as always, of course, is Alex Bear, Strategic Account Executive at RIB. Say hello, Alex.
Hi, everyone.
Right. Yours truly, Dory Azar. I am a licensed architect and a strategic account executive here at RIB Software, coming to you from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So we're on the Canadian side of the border myself. And our special guest today, and I couldn't be happier to have Jason on with us today, is Jason Hicks, who is our Canadian Professional Content Manager here at RIB. Say hello, Jason.
Good day, everyone.
Tell us,
Thanks for
Jason,
having me.
yeah, you're up in Canada with us too. Where are you today? Tell us where you're coming in from.
My home office located in Fredericton, New Brunswick, the east coast of
Fantastic.
Canada, Maritime provinces.
Awesome. Well represented, Jason. Very well represented. Next slide, please, Alex. So we want to remind you at the beginning of each Spec Talk, we've been doing prizes. And so if you have a project that you have used SpecLink for and would like to submit it for a bi-weekly prize, by all means, follow the prompts on the screen. And all of this information can be found in the Materials tab up in the top right corner of your screen there. So we just need to know the project name, firm name, owner, and location. And you can email it to Kristen, and her email address is in that document as well. And if you are selected for a prize, we will send you a JBL waterproof speaker and some other RIB SpecLink swag as well. So, and we just got some new stuff, so it's pretty cool. So it's worth a submission for sure. Next slide, please, Alex. This week's winner is coming in from Architecture Incorporated from Andy Caldwell. This is his 601 Avenue rooftop renovation, which I know from experience, rooftop renovations are not easy projects. Having an occupied roof does come with its trickiness. So it's a very cool and good looking project. And congratulations to Andy for submitting and winning. Next slide, please, Alex.
Great
Is
skyline
that
for a
our last?
rooftop, too.
You think so? Is there a view up there? I wonder. Look at that.
I think so.
Man, not everyone's got that view.
No.
So today we are going to cover a few basic topics here today. So we're going to start. Alex is going to run us through a short demo. So if anybody here is new to SpecLink, you're going to get I don't know, maybe a 5 or 10 minute sort of overview of SpecLink and what it does and how it works and what the concepts are behind it. And then we're going to talk about how SpecLink can be used for Canadian projects. So this is where we're really going to tap into Jason's brain, and we're going to talk about how to maximize SpecLink for Canadian projects. We're really going to dive into Canadian content. So I know, specs are similar on both sides of the border, but from a Canadian perspective, the approach to the content is a little bit different. So we're gonna dive into that a little bit today, and we're also going to try to talk about best practices for adapting templates and Office Masters for Canadian projects. And really, the basis of that's going to be just where do we start looking? Where are some of the best places to get our information from? So before we get going with Alex's demo, I just wanted to ask Jason to tell us a little bit more about yourself, your position here, your journey becoming a spec writer, and just a little bit about yourself to familiarize the audience with you.
Sure, thanks. So I started my specification career. I was an architectural technologist working for architectural firm in the East Coast, dabbled a little bit on the West Coast when I was trying to find myself and figure my way. So I had a strong interest in architecture, but I also love learning. So I thought specification writing offered an opportunity to continue to learn about new building technologies. I developed an interest in the building envelope. So, using that knowledge is where I became interested in the trade, as I like to call it. And so I wrote my first specification in 1999, and shortly thereafter, probably 2006, I became a consulting specification writer and most of my work was in the east coast of Canada. I had some clients scattered across the country, but I had an opportunity in 2019 to join RIB, kind of do a shift from writing project specifications to maintaining and developing master specification content. Wasn't the easiest transition if you're a project specification writer. Deadlines and coordination required to do that successfully is a little bit different than preparing and maintaining master specifications. But transition complete. That's where I spend most of my time is preparing master specs to incorporate in the SpecLink platform for RIB.
That's fantastic, Jason. I know it's such an important job because it's such the backbone of what SpecLink is and what SpecLink's all about. So on that note, why don't we ask Alex to take over and just give us a run through of SpecLink, maybe for some of those who haven't seen it before. And for those of you who have seen it before, maybe Alex can teach you a little something or a little click here or there that you've never seen before. So, Alex, why don't you run through it? And if you got any questions or along the way, by all means, let us know. But make sure you're using the Canadian template, the Canadian outline today. Okay, we're gonna focus on the Canadian content. So, for those of you that don't know, the SpecLink does offer Canadian and American content. And while Alex is pulling that up, why don't we also remind everyone, Jason, what we're hoping to launch early in 2025?
Right. So I've spent most of the past 12 to 16 months um, bringing the National Master Specification library into SpecLink. Most people on the call may be familiar with the NMS being a publication of the National Research Council of Canada. It's the federal government's master spec. And if you're in the business of working in the public sector and you're doing federal government funded work, they usually mandate the use of the NMS. So it's a big offering to the SpecLink subscription base. I feel like it's a complementary product to our Canadian content already. Our Canadian content being harmonized with the National Building Code of Canada, and the NMS is no different. So it had its challenges, but we are expecting to launch that full library of sections in early in January is the hope, and we're on track for that. So yeah, fingers crossed that it goes off without a glitch.
That's fantastic. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine, as everything always is. Alex, whenever you're ready to jump in and take over, we'd love to see what you got for us.
Yeah, sure. And I'm showing SpecLink right now. Can you see this on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Okay,
the login page there. We see the laptop.
perfect. Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. I've got about 10 minutes here they've given me to demonstrate SpecLink. So just before we
Yeah.
get into things, as Dory had mentioned, this is a system that's used and available within the United States and Canada. And Canada has been, I believe, accessible with Master Guide specifications since about 2000 and I believe 2018. The program as a whole has been around for about 30 years, so it is used by thousands of architects and engineers that are looking to digitize and really automate the spec writing process to save a wealth of time by using a database approach as opposed to sort of just traditional, flat Word documents for the specifications. You do get unlimited support with the system. We have free training. We have an online user guide, so all kinds of different resources to help you get up and running. But whether you're writing the very first spec of your career, or if you've been writing specs for the past, couple decades, the system is used by all kinds of different genres of people that are tasked with writing specifications, again, to save time, improve consistency of the documents, and just have a smoother process to the specification writing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the login button here at the top right. That'll bring us into SpecLink.
I just want to
Now,
jump
first and
into
foremost,
Alex. Sorry, Alex, if I
uh
can, if people have questions along the way, the chat section is open. So if there's any questions that people want to ask or start a conversation while we're going, by all means, light it up for us. So sorry, Alex, I just wanted to make sure that people understood that.
No worries, no worries. So when we get into the system, first and foremost, this is going to be an area that you can sort of document, harmonize your specifications. It's going to keep track of all of your different project files. You'll have the ability within the system, you can, each project file will archive and host all of your different project spec sections, divisions, and sections. So it is a project management sort of file system for your specifications. Because we're in a database too, anything that you would typically do that's going to be very monotonous, manual, and word processing, like headers and footers or setting up fonts and styles, um, global terms, those are all going to be done globally, holistically through the database project file. So much easier, much faster to kind of cross your T's and dot your I's within the sort of formatting of the specifications. Just that manual task will just give that time back to you. You can do that, set that up in a matter of a couple minutes or so. You do also have the ability to set up office masters. So if you're doing specific work for the city of Toronto, or for a particular commercial client or a particular school district, you can set up different office masters that are sort of pre-structured for those particular types of work. So you can come in here and you can actually pre-edit the documents. We'll get into this momentarily, but you can select the things that you want to print or include in that project specification. We're also going to push updates out to the specifications. So you'll always be able to receive, we have a team of about 15 spec writers. You'll always receive the latest, reference standard updates or manufacturing updates or product updates. So it is very much tied directly to the web. So you can, once you kind of standardize your different spec templates, there's a way to quickly sort of review updates and accept those into your project master. So I'm going to go ahead and come in back to the database. Here, I'm going to start a new project file. Okay, and we're going to start with the master content. If I wanted to make a copy of an Office master or an existing project, I could do that too if I want to start from a template. So a very template friendly program. And then I'm going to start here with the RIB Canadian Master Guide specifications. And we'll give Jason a chance in just a moment to talk more about that and the content that's furnished out of the box for you, so that you don't have to write your specifications from scratch. So we'll go ahead and give this project a name.
I'm curious to see which city you're going to pick, Alex, for this project. You've got a lot of Canadians here watching. Who you going to pick a favorite, or how are?
Well, let's see
Let's see it.
here.
Be
So
gentle. Be
I've been,
gentle.
so I've been to three places. I've been to Vancouver. I've been to Edmonton, which was
Okay.
neat because the sun stayed out until about 11 o'clock at night, and I've been to Toronto. But I'm going to go with Toronto
Okay.
because it is probably my favorite. Uh,
All right.
Now you might have to give me
Thinking
a
of
hint
Toronto,
again as to what the district is. Ontario.
Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And speaking of Toronto, I'll take this opportunity. If anybody is going to be at the Building Show from December 3rd to the 6th, which is in Toronto, Jason and I will be there with RIB. So if anybody wants to have an in-person demo or conversation with us about anything and everything SpecLink and spec related, also in the materials section of this webinar, we have a free registration for you. So it'll save you, I think, the $25 or $35 it normally costs to access the floor, the trade show floor. You can get that for free with the information that we have up there. And then Jason and I would love to meet you and chat more about specs in person.
Absolutely. So what I've done here is I've opened up a new project file. You can select the different specs that you want to include in your project specification. So it is an edit by selection based system. You're able to pick and choose the sections that you want. Likewise, you'll have the ability to pick and choose the different content within the sections. And we have, because this is Canadian, in this particular version of SpecLink, it is adapted to the CSC format. If you have any other particular formats that you use for particular clients or different project types, you can also create your own formats and set those up as templates within your own SpecLink database system. Now, as we go through and select the information that we want, one of the really cool things with SpecLink, and hence the name SpecLink, is we have hundreds and thousands of these, what we call intelligent links or spec links that are built through the database. So you can see here at line 89, we have a green link. And then at line 90, we have a yellow link. So what these are doing is these are helping to kind of clue in or automatically turn on, like in the case of 89, different related paragraphs that are needed or maybe recommended, like you can see at paragraph 90, based on other choices that you're making. So the system, it links together the interrelated content for either inclusion, recommendation. We also have situations where we have mutually exclusive options. So here we have 3 different choices of facing. If I choose the first option, it's going to put a red stop sign next to the second and the third option because those would be contradictory. So these links help to kind of bridge together a lot of the choices. So as opposed to making 500 choices in a spec section, you may only be making 50 or 100 choices because these links again tie together a lot of the configuration of the specification. Even as you're going in and choosing information in part 2, we'll find that this links are going to circle back into part 1 as they turn on and cross-coordinate certain related reference standards or certain related installation procedures in part 3. We also have intelligent links that cross-coordinate related sections. So when you're in part 1 and you're choosing, let's say, I want to make sure that I include weather barriers and joint sealants, the system will also flag those related sections. So it is bringing together and kind of making the specification sticky. It's kind of bringing together this puzzle pieces for you to help you coordinate the spec. Now, it will work like a word processor in the sense that I can come in and modify the text. I can modify text, delete text, add text. I can add my own user paragraphs, just like so. And it will include that track changing and the printing if needed. We also have different things like master notes that we provide. Those are available here on the left side of the system. I can come in and click on these little orange sticky notes at the left of different paragraphs, and I've got different notes that provide me with suggestions or notes of the specifier, maybe what to consider specifying in a certain situation, or maybe notes about or information around the related manufacturers that are provided within the system. So all kinds of different notes that you can that are added or that you can add inside of your master to provide supplemental reminders of what to do and why to use certain things in different scenarios. We've even got comments that you can sort of add specific comments about what to consider using, or if you have a comment or a question for another user in the system, you can add those too. So it is designed for better communication with your team. So as you're going through, if you need for somebody to review a specification, they can receive a comment. They'll get a little notification in the system, and they can come and reply to that comment as those recommendations are added in. So it is very much a collaborative-based program for both specification writers, whether you have multiple project managers or architects, engineers that are writing the specs for their own projects. If you have sort of a key spec writer in your office, but you have project managers reviewing the system, it's designed very much to help that coordination and collaboration process.
And Alex, too, I'll add to that as well. A lot of the feedback that
Sure.
I'm getting during my demos is the inner office collaboration. And if we have a lot of, I see some of the firms that are on with us today, I know they have offices on both sides of the border. This would be a great way to collaborate between offices, share projects, share workload as well. That collaboration tool is really powerful for that. When not everybody's in the same building, which is, happening so much more frequently now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, there's just a certain amount of muscle memory that's required with specifications, but the templates, they save so much time because you're able to start from a template with certain pre-edited, information. So if you have a school project that you did 6 months ago, you can make a copy of that, and it will have all of the edits from the last go around. So you'll have new changes. Maybe you need to change the owner name. We have different global terms that you can justify or modify, key parts of the specification. So yeah, you really can use this to your advantage. And like I said, most of our clients are saving about 50% of time or more on their specifications. And it's providing a great deal of consistency back as well. So, anything again that you would do kind of section by section, whether that be headers and footers or formats, printing, all of these things can be done holistically and globally from within the system. One other thing important to note is it's very flexible. So we actually have 4 different versions of every single spec section. What we're looking at right now is our full length spec, which includes all of the information in part 1, part 2, and part 3. But we do also have an outline spec. That information is just going to include information in part 2. So maybe if you're an early, schematics design set and you want to get something out quickly, you've got that available at your disposal. We also have a short form specification, which will give you a little bit more information, lend some more details to you in part 1 and part 3. So what happens here is we have these 3 different sort of modalities. So as you're going through, you can choose and expand on the specification. It's going to carry your edits forward. So it's just a progressive based sort of a process. We even have sheet specs. So you can come in here if you have a particular project, maybe interiors only, you just need notes on drawings. I can come in here and I can actually take those specifications and I can convert them over to sheet specs. So again, very flexible in the way that you can sort of deliver the specifications working out of a single database.
Beautiful. I usually get gasping from people during the demos when they see, there's firms of a certain size who sometimes rely exclusively on sheet specs, and so to have that export option within a click that just says, and that to me that ties hand in hand with the outline specs as well, right? So it's Jason, it'd be rare that you'd see a full spec done in a sheet spec format, right? You're not going to sit there with 500, or maybe not 500, but 100 sheets of drawing specs. So that hand
Yeah,
in hand with the
I've
export
never
specs.
seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I'm sure
I'm sure
people have
somebody's
tried to
tried.
push the boundaries a bit. Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't know, it's kind of regional language here. Sheet spec's kind of that term in Canada. I've always heard it referred to as spec on drawings. Um,
Yeah.
it's just an interesting difference in language that we use.
Yeah.
You know,
If anybody on the call today has a different way that they refer to it, please let me know in the chat. Let me know in the questions here. I'd love to hear if there's other ways people, if you've experienced different terminology between Canada and US, whether it's sheet specs or not. I'd love to hear some of the differences that you've experienced in your career.
Absolutely. But yeah, so this will give you kind of a high level overview of the system. We have, again, great program. It's going to digitize all of your templates. I mean, the key here is that we're not deleting anything. We're simply selecting what we want for each project. So because all of the information stays and it kind of remains here visible but grayed out in the background, it allows you to reuse all kinds of different templates. I can pull from a template for an entire project. If I wanted to just upload some particular spec sections from another project, I can do that too. But you're able to reuse what you have. That kind of grounds your specifications and provides a lot of detailed customization that you can leverage. So really most of our clients are becoming sharper and sharper and more efficient with the system. I mean, it almost makes specs easy, if I will dare to say that. So it is used by all kinds of different genres. Again, we have dedicated spec writers, consultants, but a lot of project managers are using this because of the ease of use and the abilities to link together the documents and the choices, the global formatting, the automatic updating, the global printing. So all those factors come together to kind of tick down on the time that it takes. And it's just providing a much greater level of confidence for our end users, those that are being tasked to write specifications, feel that they have something in place that they know, they'll be able to produce a effective specification quickly, and one that is free or more free, I'd say, of errors, omissions, change orders, RFIs, all the things that occur when you don't have consistency inside of your specifications. So with that being said, Dory, I think that would kind of conclude the 10-minute overview, unless you'd like to,
Yeah.
or any of
No,
the audience have any particular questions.
there's at the so I got to be honest, there's one question that came through. There's
Okay.
a few that are coming through, but someone specifically wants to see your cat. Do you have a cat?
I do not. I have a dog.
Oh, then maybe that's what they're asking for. But no, I think now's a great time. Let's keep SpecLink open in case some of the questions come through. But I really want to start to pick Jason's brain. So he's had a minute to warm up here. So Well, oh, Alex. So it's another Alex that's leaving the comments. Says looked like a cat tree in the background, but that's probably not a cat tree. So, anyways, we'll get back to specs here for a second. So, Jason, the question that I wanted to start off with you, um, if so, here's a scenario for you, right? So, let's say somebody is starting a new firm in Canada, whether it be a Canadian architect starting their own firm, or maybe an American firm wants to open up a Canadian office. What Where do they start to build out their Canadian spec? Like what sources, what resources do they have to find Canadian content? What are some of the main things that somebody needs to consider when building out their first Canadian specification? What are the resources? What's out there?
So freely available master guide specs are usually published by government agencies. So depending on where you are in the country, like for example, Alberta Infrastructure, when you work for the province of Alberta, they mandate that you use their, I think they call it the Basic Master Specification, or BMS for short. And it's freely available on their website for download, and that's the kind of the starting point for doing work with Alberta Infrastructure. It's a similar set of content that's curated by the province, similar in the national master specification that's curated by the federal government agency. So those are freely available. The NMS, well, some people don't know that it is freely available on the National Research Council's website. It's kind of a clunky download. It's all RTF files. So, but if you're looking for 900 master specification sections to kickstart your adventure in Canada, it's kind of a no-brainer to go there, especially if you're hoping to work for any federally funded projects, because they're going to require, their project managers will require to use the most current version of that master specification. We're licensed publishers of the National Master Specification in Canada, so you can also get properly formatted Canadian specifications. The NMS is available on specmarket.com. That's kind of a joint storefront that we run with Construction Specifications Canada, so you can download the NMS there in Microsoft Word format. So that's kind of your large freely available master specification content sources. And then you look at your commercially available master specifications. Obviously, our SpecLink platform has our RIB Canada master spec. That's a 900 architectural specification set, or 900 specification sections in architectural, civil engineering, structural engineering, mechanical and electrical engineering, in those various disciplines. So it's a pretty comprehensive database. Not by any means complete. We would never consider a master specification library complete. Just changes in technology, warrant new updates to the content, as they come up. So we try to keep it as current as possible. And, we have competitions in Canada. There's other commercially available master specifications. The West Coast may be familiar with the CMS. That's a competitive product to ours, very similar in content, similar product offering, and they operate in a cloud-based specification editing platform as well. So it's out there. It's trying to find the platform or the production environment that you feel comfortable working in. I remember when I started as consultant specification writer, I had thousands of Microsoft Word specification sections that I referred to depending on the project. And the editing process at the time I thought was pretty efficient. When I joined RIB and got into the SpecLink production environment, I didn't realize how much time I can save using a database, especially with all the features. Some of them Alex touched on that are convenient and improve your efficiency in the production cycle. But even some of the features that are in SpecLink, like generating reports on shop drawings or submittals logs, and keeping track of comments during the production, during the specification production is, those are game changers for me. So,
Let's
um,
Alex, can you show us the he's already one step ahead of me. I was going to say those submittal any of the logs, any of the reporting that SpecLink does is it beats the heck out of flipping through 600 pages of a document trying to find certain things. So Alex, why don't you walk us through what the submittal um, log looks like, or the
Sure,
report looks like, and how we're
sure.
saving time
So
there.
we have sort of pre-tagged different content inside of the SpecLink database. So you can see here as I kind of scroll, kind of scan over these little tags, these two-letter tags on the left that, like for instance, paragraph 66 is tagged to a samples report, samples report at 67, test report at 68. So these things are automatically sort of tagged in the background so that as you choose them for particular projects, you have available reports at your disposal. So for this particular instance, we have a submittals log that you can come and click on. If I come here to um, my reporting menu, I can come and choose, let's see here, I can come and choose, should be able to choose submittals log. This is grayed out for some reason. Um, let me refresh this.
While we're waiting for Alex to troubleshoot that, Jason, we got a quick question that came in from Beth, and Beth wants to know how would you describe the key differences between CMS, so Construction Master Specification, and NMS, the National Master Specification? How can we help Beth with that?
hey, Beth. Beth is one of our RIB friends on the West Coast. So, great question. Now, the terminology, let's get the terminology here correct. CMS refers to the Canadian Master Specification. That's a proprietary master specification owned by the NMS, and is available in their course platform. One of our strongest competitors. And I previously worked with the NBS, so I'm familiar with the CMS. I authored a number of their master specification sections. Um, and so I can answer that question. So the CMS is equivalent, in my opinion, to our RIB Canada master specification. Both those master specs are intended to be used primarily in the private sector. If you compare them side by side to the NMS, what you'll find in the NMS is a lot of administrative requirements that the federal government believes are important to the success of a federally funded project. So, long story short, they've added a lot of administrative requirements to the process that generally we wouldn't have on a project that's based on a CCDC2, like a traditional design bid build type private sector contract, a contract between the owner and the general contractor. So the contract terms in the CMS or in RIB Canada master specifications are more aligned with the way that CCDC documents, and I'm talking about Canadian Construction Documents Committee, those are standard contracts in Canada. Those both sets of master specifications are aligned with that contractual relationship. The federal government is primarily designed to be used with the federal government's standard form of contract. So general conditions and supplementary conditions aside, they both strive to achieve the same goals. So it's the design intent that's agreed to between all the project stakeholders. I just find the NMS documentation is, I hate to use I won't use that term in this format, but it's wordy. So if you print out hollow metal doors and frames section from the RIB Canadian Master, and you print out the same section in the NMS, it's probably going to be 4, 5, 6 pages longer just because of a lot of the built-in process that the federal government has in their production environment. So the content's very similar. I know to curate the NMS content, they do hire Canadian consulting specification writers to produce that content. So it's written by Canadians for Canadians. Um, it's good content, and as I said, it's freely available. It's a good starting point. But it is intended for federally funded projects. So there's kind of a lot of motherhood clauses in there. It's kind of repetitive. They do repeat a lot of the same articles in section to section. I prescribe to the philosophy where if you're going to say it once and say it in the right spot. So a lot of what the NMS has, I think you could take that out of their technical specification and include it in Division 1 where it should be. But it's part of the process for building and curating their content.
Excellent, Jason. Thank you so much. And I think in that time that we were able to answer Beth's question, Alex has solved the submittal situation. A lot of S words,
Yes.
but yeah.
So that's right. So what I was able to do is run a report that has all the different submittals that we have selected throughout the project. It tells us what section they're associated with, and it even gives you the ability, of course, to edit this. So if you need to, want to add a column for the, say, the status of the submittal, you can
Mhm.
kind of keep track of those submittals too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so again, just another one of the like big powerful features that SpecLink has that are just, I mean, that's a thing that's not saving you a couple minutes here and there. That's saving you like chunks of time, which I absolutely love those features. Jason, let me
Well,
ask you
just
another
yeah,
question.
just kind of the forensic, the ability to do a forensic investigation on how
Yeah.
you came to the decision that now you're discussing with the general contractor in regular project meetings. Like, how did we ever decide that this is what we were going to do? If you use SpecLink to its ultimate capabilities, you're going to have that. It's more than just redlining a document, because you can include in those comments or in and create your own notes, project notes. You can include decision making, have an archive of the decisions made during the process of building the specification. It's one of the coolest features that I first became aware of when I joined RIB and started using SpecLink, was how much
Mhm.
intelligence or knowledge you can transfer into the platform that's not lost if you lose your spec writer. Because, there's not a lot of spec writers in the country. A lot of spec writers have a tendency to, gain some experience, and then they get out on their own and they make a successful career out of it. But it leaves the engineering or the architectural practice a little shorthanded, and that knowledge base is gone. But in SpecLink, that you can transfer and maintain that knowledge base based on the work that you've done previously.
I would love to know on that note, Jason, if anybody is on with us now that is an independent spec writer, an independent spec consultant, I would love to hear from you. Drop a note in the chat or in the comments, and I want to learn. I want to learn more about what you're doing there. So,
Yeah.
Alex, I saw you were clicking around, and why don't you talk to us? What's that, Jason? Sorry.
We need an update from Leah. I know she's a new
Okay.
consulting specification writer, so
If Leah is still on
yeah,
here
we
and
want to know
sort of
how
the,
it's
the list of
going with
attendees,
Leah.
yeah. So Alex, what were you jumping around the screen there for us? Why don't you walk us
Yeah, I
through
was
some
just
of the
sort of
things you were doing?
demonstrating in the background as Jason was mentioning that, SpecLink, it really becomes a repository, right, for your specifications, both from a spec content standpoint, where you can add in, the information into, to Sponge. So you're able to add in different information for different projects. All of your project files are saved, locally in your database. So if your head spec writer does leave, you've got a foot to a ground to stand on here. But as Jason also mentioned, we have the ability to add in project notes. So I can add in a quick note here, or I just did that in the background for line paragraph 95. So let's say that there's a particular manufacturer that we added in to our office master, and we know that we want to use that usually for education based work, let's say. So I added a quick note there, used for education work, and that's going to put a little note. So when I come to that particular paragraph, that sort of justification is going to be available to us. So it really allows you to, again, make your specifications really accurate and familiar, so that you have, it's not some sort of a foreign beast that you're getting into on each and every project. SpecLink allows you to, digitally customize the specifications so that you've got a really good starting point.
Excellent. Alex, we just got a really good question come through, and it's kind of a two-part question. I'm gonna ask it as slow as I can to make sure it comes out right. So the question is, does the software include a cross-check report to highlight any items that are not completed? For example, empty brackets in a section. And also a report that lists any references to sections not included in the project. So kind of, if I'm understanding the question correctly, will it say, hey, you forgot to make, you are including this. So let's say, for example, you activate line 98 or 99, and it's got some square brackets in there that are blank. Is there a report that we can run that says, hey, in those active sections, there are still blanks, there are still decisions that need to be made?
Unfortunately, not yet. You can create custom reporting, but it doesn't track it to a particular line per se.
Okay.
Um, there may be some workarounds with a sort of tagging things to a submittal report, um, but nothing out of the box. So the best thing that we can do is really just a control find for brackets. So it'll kind of run you through inside of SpecLink those different instances.
Okay.
Of course, that you'll have the ability to then audit or add or leave blank. But I know that has been a request in the past, and our development team's taking a look into that.
Okay, excellent. We got another
We
question
are
here that
working
I know
on
that.
as well, I will say, a report that you can set the status of any given section. So whether that's at 75% complete or 90% complete, and we're going to be rolling that out fairly soon as well. So there are things. This is definitely something that we're working on, some enhancements in that
Right, we got
arena.
another question. Awesome. We're always making enhancements, right? Got another question
Absolutely.
about inserting images into the notes. So I know that we can, but can you kind of just give us the quick walkthrough if somebody wanted to import? Um, Jason, what would an example be of somebody wanting to import a diagram into a spec? Maybe a wiring diagram or something like that?
Well, picture's worth 1,000 words. So if you're responsible for product selection uh, and you have a screenshot of something that you've used in the past on a project, or you're touring
Mhm.
an existing building with a repeat client, and they would say, we really like this fixture. We love this plumbing fixture. It's easy to take a digital photograph of that and then import it into that section of work in the technical specification as a reminder, or as a starting point for preparing the specification. So I believe you can insert the images in the project notes. I'm not sure about comments though.
That's a good question. I know
Yeah.
you can. So Alex, why don't you walk us through that?
Sure. So in the notes, and we just described an example earlier, I believe used on education projects. But I can come in, I can add a note for any given paragraph. I can type in my notes. I can also add titles here, lists, images, and hyperlinks. So any or all of the above can be added to a project note that is kind of cleanly, associated, but on the side of the actual text. The other thing is, if you want, you can put in a note inside. If you wanted to put an image inside of the spec, you can do that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, since you have the option for putting that in the project note, but you do have the ability to insert uh, an image inside of the body of a spec too. You can mark that as non-printing as well, so that it would never print, but it's just going to show up in the spec editor view.
Alex, we've got another question about specifically adding an image into the body of the spec. Do you have a
Okay.
quick example of that we can share?
Let's see here. So yes, you can come into the system, choose insert image. Okay, and then you can basically find that image.
Is it going to be an image of your cat, Alex? No,
No,
I'm just joking.
that would be. Let's see here. So I think it has to be under.
Yeah, there's a limit in the size of the image that you can insert.
Oh, okay.
Right. So here's an
Oh,
example though. So I just added this screenshot.
okay. Was that a PDF that you brought in, or was that a
I believe
JPEG?
so. I think
Yep.
that was a
Was it?
PDF.
Oh, okay. I only thought we could bring in like image. I didn't realize we could bring in PDFs. That's fantastic. So yes, to answer the two questions that came in about images, one in the notes and one in the body of the spec, the answer is yes and yes for both of those.
Yeah,
You can see your
useful,
example
really
up there.
powerful tool. Being able to include
Yeah.
images. I remember one project that we looked at. There was a very precise way of assembling uh, a wire, a guy wire support, and it had a turnbuckle and washers. So they actually put
Hmm.
that diagram right in the specification, and it helped. Hard to specify that, but really is easy to show it graphically in the
Right.
specification.
Yeah, and I mean that's not the first time that I've heard that question either, right? I've been chatting with some other clients before who particularly MEP in the MEP world. So um, there you go.
Not,
That
yeah,
answers
not
that.
that I say we start putting a bunch of graphic images in the specification
No,
because
no.
generally reserved for the set of drawings, but you know, whatever you can do to convey the design intent, in my opinion, is on the table.
Jason, what are you seeing as the state of independent spec writers in Canada? What is are there more people becoming independent spec writers? Are more people bringing their specs in-house to try to have a little more control over them and keep costs down? What are you seeing out there with your network of people?
Um, Look, most of the specification writers that I deal with on a daily and weekly basis, the people that are kind of in my circle of influence that I would call either my mentors, basically,
Hmm.
they all work for larger firms, and I think there's value in having an experienced specification writer in a firm, to guide and help transfer that knowledge to younger people or new people in industry. So I think that some larger firms would have a dedicated in-house specification writer. Now, how many? It's a luxury to have those people. I know large firms that still hire consulting spec writers, and I was a consulting spec writer for 20 years, and I was never out of work. Um, for me, it was trying to balance, that work life balance got difficult when I started to get older and kids were really busy. So it was trying to determine, what's best for me at the time. So if you want to be busy, being a consultant specification writer is not a bad choice if you don't mind putting in the hours. Um, and not saying that people that work for larger design firms don't put in the same amount of hours, but yeah, I worked a lot of weekends when I was a consulting spec writer. We go on a ski trip and I take my laptop because there was always something to do. It's hard
Hmm.
to work around. So I think you'd find that the answer to that would be pretty split. Some people love working in that collaborative environment where you're in the office and you're working directly with the lead engineer, the job captain, and that's challenging and rewarding environment. But
Hmm.
you're a spec writer and you want to be busy, getting out and being a private sector consultant is not it's not a bad gig. They're hard to find.
All right. So that's just insider tip for everybody. And it is an interesting thing, right? Because there's so, at least architecturally speaking, we're so channeled into the design realm, right? Like architecture school, the lure of getting into architecture and design is always for that built, those the pretty pictures at the end and the nice photos. But the technical aspect of it is really like those are the people that are really hard to replace, right? The good technical people, the good detailers, the good spec writers. My advice to young architects has changed a lot in the last year or two, where it's you know um, if you can get technical, if you can really understand how a building goes together and how how to limit correspondence with a contractor and make sure your documents are nice and tight. You're going to find yourself very valuable and very hard to get rid of if you get good at that. Um, so, um, Jason, another question, like what kind of paths can people take to become a spec writer? So we know there's not a lot of or any, to my knowledge, accredited universities that are saying, hey, do our program and you can be a spec writer by the end of it. What paths can people take to become a spec writer in Canada? I know
Well,
there's a
if
lot of
you're
administrative people that have been sort of like nurtured into spec writing. I know architects have had
coerced,
to do it before. I'm trying to use positive language here, Jason.
yeah.
But
Uh,
what have you seen in your experience if you were going to answer that?
I'll be, in my experience, people become specification writers purely by accident. They work on a design team. They could be young engineers, young architects, technologists from a trade school from either of those disciplines. But they get in that environment, and then they, if you went to a school, they might have a module, like a 4-week module on the role of the specification and a set of contract documents, and there might be a very light touch on how that comes about, what type of skills and knowledge you need to put that together. It's not until you get in the business where you actually start to learn the practical skills needed to put together a spec. And if you have an affinity for that and that in-depth technical knowledge, you almost get defaulted into the office spec writer. So be careful out there. If that's not really what you want to end up doing. It was how I got into it, and I love it. I wouldn't have traded my career for anything at this point in my life. But now, to getting real good practical experience in specification writing, I'm a 25-year member of Construction Specifications Canada. I have a passion for that association, and they have various educational streams to help develop the basic skills to not make a ton of mistakes for your employer. So it's entry level stuff, but it complements on the job training very well because you become astute in understanding the contracts and the terms and conditions of contracts and the language used to write a specification. It's not the same language that you use when you're texting your partner. So there's contract language, so you learn all those basic skills. You learn about the contracts available in your jurisdiction. You understand the process from design conception to a final inspection on site. So if you're looking to become a spec writer or hone your skills, the first place I would go to is Construction Specifications Canada.
And through Construction Specifications Canada, so in the United States, the designation is CDT, right? Construction Document Technician, I
Documents.
believe. Documents.
Right.
But in Canada, it's a different acronym. Well, we actually have two titles that you can get in Canada, right? We can
Well, in the in
obtain.
the yeah in the so the CSI in the U.S. is a sister or partner organization to Construction Specifications Canada. The mandates are very similar. It's education in the construction industry, and the formatting documents are very similar. And as such, the programs are similar. So in the US, the CSI designations are CDT, Construction Documents Technician, and then CCS, which Certified Construction Specifier, I believe. In Canada, those equivalents are CSW, or, oh, no, I'm
I've got them on
outside
my
of the,
screen here.
I know
So,
it.
no, Construction Specification
CSP,
Writer.
it's
Yep. Or
CSP and
Certified Specification Writer.
Certified Specification Writer is kind of the entry point, and then you have the RSW designation, which is a registered specification writer. So similar pathways in the US and Canada from CSI to CSC, and all the education programs that they offer to support both of those designations.
Yeah, and I think Faith just asked the question: CSP or RSW are the two. So yes, there's also, I
CSP.
believe, CSW for Certified Specification Writer, but like you said, Jason, that's a little more entry level
Yeah,
to
I
the
think it's just
RSW.
CSP. Yeah, CSP and
Okay.
RSW. When I joined, it was
Um,
only RSW. So, but they recognize that there is a need for people that have a limited role in the production of specifications, and that they could um, come up with a program similar to the CDT. Although I do believe that's a little more strenuous course load in the U.S. for the CDT, but still it's a designation that helps with your understanding and knowledge of the construction industry and the documents required in that industry.
Guys, I would love to sit and chat about this for another hour, but I can't believe that we are almost at our 60-minute limit today, and we do have a little bit of housekeeping before we wrap up. So, Alex, if you don't mind circling back to our slides there, so we can do a little bit of wrap up. While Alex is navigating to that, I did want to remind everyone that if you are new to SpecLink or you're not using it and you would like a demo by a one-on-one demo, you can either reach out to myself or Alex. We'll be more than happy to jump on a call with you and walk you through some of the things that you saw today in more depth. As well as Jason and I will be in Toronto at the Buildings Show from December 3rd to the 6th. We will be at booth number 1653. I have my little notes here. So if you guys happen to be at the Building Show, in the material section as well, we can get you in for free. There it is up on the screen there. You can see, just visit thebuildingshow.com and you can use our code there, TBS24 trade, to get yourselves in there for free. And who wants to pay money? Not me. I'm going for free. So we've got that option too. And if this is just a little niche thing, but if anybody is in Toronto and happens to be attending the Toronto Society of Architects Bash this Friday night, I will be at that one as well. So I'll be spending a lot of time in Toronto in the next couple of weeks, but I'm looking forward to it. So if anybody's in Toronto and wants to meet up, reach out. But having said that, Alex, if we can jump back to the slides, we'll just wrap up here. With our announcement for next week. Is it next week? No, in 2 weeks. Our next Spec Talk is going to be December 11th, Wednesday, December 11th, and that's going to be a real special one because it is going to be with Eric Letbetter. And the best part about this one is it is going to be in person. So I am flying down to Atlanta. I've got a lot of travel coming up. I'll be flying down to Atlanta and we'll be doing an in-person live Spec Talk on Wednesday, December 11th, where we're going to be talking about tagging. So just programming SpecLink from your end to make it do exactly what you want. So definitely register for that one as well. It's going to be a really, really fun one for me in particular. So I just want to say again, Jason, I love chatting with you. It's always informative. It's always fun and easy. Alex, it's always a pleasure. But real special thanks to Jason for taking time out of your day to come in and talk with us about specs in Canada. If anybody wants to, like I said, have their own one-on-one demo, reach out to Alex or I. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for attending today. We really appreciate you joining us. And I mean, I had my flag and my Timmies and my Rush T-shirt. I did the best to be as Canadian as I could today, while also being professional. So I was like, I was going to wear a helmet or have a hockey stick leaning against the wall, and I thought, you know what, let's not bother. So thank you everybody for attending our special Canadian edition of Spec Talk, and we will see you, if not in Toronto, next week, Wednesday, December 11th. See you then. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.